Welcome to the AmRisc Podcast. Join us as we go beyond underwriting to discover more about our people, culture, and history.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the AmRisc Podcast. This is episode 6 of the RELII series, and this is on innovation. We're sitting here with Tony Self, Mark Oswald. Christian Medina is helping me host. Tony, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, thanks. I am the market analytics manager. I work for John Horton on his team, and I've been at AmRisc for right at 15 years, just a few days ago.
Nice, congrats, man.
Thanks.
There you go. Get that Titleist golf bag.
Right, yeah. It's been then I have to learn to play golf.
Yeah. Or at least you'll look good.
Or get better. Yeah.
Just sitting there.
But yeah, it's been an interesting ride. I think I heard in the meeting this morning, Eric started right about the same time I did, Eric Powell. And, I think we had $270 million of in-force premium at that point, and here we are, $2 billion. I was the, 30th or 29th person to work in the Houston office.
Wow.
So that gives you a sense of scale, because I think we have 200 total now. If everybody in Houston was here, for the most part.
Just in Houston too.
And we had 3 carriers, but one of those was about to stop at that point. So today, my team prepares and sends reports to, I think it's 23 carriers right now.
Wow.
Total, including the EBD products, and that's actually counting Lloyd's as one.
Okay.
We have like 20 Lloyd's contracts.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's been an interesting 15 years, and I worked on the IT side for most of that time. But at that point, IT was really embedded with the business. We didn't work for BB&T or Truist, so we were really, involved in the day-to-day work with the business.
Okay.
And at that point, we actually had servers here, and in the building, and actually had to maintain some of those servers and networking and things like that.
Wow.
So I've done that. My team now is responsible for all of the CAT modeling, as well as, I would say, most of the management reporting. We have some people outside of the team who still handle some things. But all the carrier reporting from the business side, IT programs it, but ultimately we're responsible for the content and what's really in there. And then we also have a hand in the risk track data, that you guys see in the day-to-day workflow, because we write and, create the error checks and kind of, implement that. And so it's always, trying to figure out how the data is going to fit into the reports and everything. Not so much how it fits into risk track, but how it fits into the reports and how it fits into the models, making sure that that's good. So I've done a little bit of everything. We also have the premium bordereaux, so I get into a little bit of accounting from time to time. And
that's cool.
I've literally swept the server floors, helped rebuild the server room, physically install racks, and I've taken out the trash on plenty of occasions.
I remember
You do it all, Tony.
Yeah.
I remember taking those racks out a couple of years ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.
Oh, we did that.
Have. I think most of you guys have helped us at one point or another.
Moved
some of those around.
Pre-COVID.
Yeah. So I've done a little bit of everything, and so at this point I have Mark Oswald, who we'll talk here in a second, on my team as a business analyst. I have one CAT modeler, Adam Dang, who just joined us a few months ago.
Super nice guy.
And then he's a good guy, and Mike Mall, who's been here 11,
Forever.
12 years. Is another business analyst on my team. He moved over from the IT side as well. So anyway, that was a long intro, but
awesome.
It's been an eventful 15 years. And,
Everyone knows you now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's good to see new faces, a lot of new faces. Seeing a lot of people for the first time now pre-COVID in the office, and I think it's good to have everybody together. When I started, everybody kind of had to come into the office. We have a few people in other cities and just a couple remote workers, I think. But seeing everybody, face to face makes a difference, I think. So anyway, go ahead, Mark.
All right. Well, I'm Mark Oswald. Been working for AmRisc for about 3 years now, and the first 2.5 years I was on the Texas Hab team, paired with Ana Barbosa pretty much from the start. And me and Christian were on the same team. He pointed at himself. We were on the same team.
We started that team. It was a great time.
Yeah, it was. Hard occupancy, a lot of fun though.
Definitely.
It was fun. But anyway, now I'm on Tony's team, really enjoying it. As he stated, I'm a business analyst working with him. And so there's lots of reports going on, lots of different things that I'm really enjoying it so far, lots of data. And I've got a math degree, so data and numbers are much more up my alley than I think the UA position even was. So
I think it's cool that Mark actually transitioned to this side of the business because it honestly fits him a lot more. It's like his bread and butter.
It's my bread and butter.
This guy's wild with Excel sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Travis will be on here, but Travis, he's got me beat. But he's got a couple of years on me.
Taught
So
all of us, honestly.
I'll catch up to him.
Went to school for accounting, I think. That's kind of, they live in there, right?
Right.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But when I interviewed Mark, I said, well, you might enjoy this if you like solving problems and puzzles and that kind of thing. And he kind of like got a smile and was like, yeah, I do. I'm like, all right, you'll be good. Because that's what we do every day is solving problems and trying to figure out the puzzle pieces. We're still creating stuff new, new things every day. That really has not changed in 15 years. I can say that. And, our manager, John Horton, I know that he learns something every day. And I would, Brian, our CEO, I'm sure he learns something every day too, because there's a new problem and something to work on, whether it's data related, carrier related, producer related, truest process and procedure, whatever it might be. I mean, there's really literally something every day. And I don't think there's been a day where I didn't learn something in 15 years.
Yeah.
I guess I started off pretty stupid then.
Well, now you're pretty smart. So
I might be getting smarter after 15
Maybe not
years.
start off as stupid, just not as educated.
Yeah.
There's a better look at
I
it.
did not know insurance, I can tell you that.
Oh, 100%.
I knew some other things about IT and a lot about radio. That was my prior experience.
Yeah.
But I had to learn insurance from zero.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good testament to, the topic of innovation. You're solving problems every day. You're learning something new every day. And in that, like, what would you say innovation in your experiences alone mean to you?
I think that what it really comes down to is just solving the problems of the day. This morning there was an underwriting meeting, right? And they kind of talked about changes in the market cycles, carriers, reducing PML, reducing aggregates, kind of changing deductibles we've been doing, a lot of more primaries and things this year that we maybe didn't do in the past. And so, we have the data to help us figure out how to manage the portfolio and implement these things. But a lot of the data that we had, we didn't quite look at it through that lens. It wasn't organized in a way that would help us make some of those decisions.
Yeah.
So we kind of had to figure out how to create reports and exactly which data to look at. And, Mark did, 10 or 15 iterations of a couple different reports.
Nice.
And we'd had similar reports in the past, but we kind of needed it all in one place to give that perspective. And so really, I think, especially at AmRisc, it's just been for 15 years that I've seen anyway.
Yeah.
It's just about solving the problems at hand. And really, I guess I could say the risk calc, my understanding when they first created it, the problem they were trying to solve was at that point, how do we price different layers for different types of risks? And, what should the primary versus excess pricing, what the buffer pricing be? And actually going back beyond that, my understanding is the very first sort of version of risk calc or whatever it was called, it wasn't risk calc. What I heard was that it was related. It was Dan working on something, and they were trying to calculate the flow from sprinklers in industrial facilities at FM based on the flow rates of the sprinklers and the amount of water that was in the tanks. Could it put out a fire of a certain intensity?
Oh, wow.
In this facility? And so my understanding is that Dan or whoever, right?
That's a lot of
somebody created a table and then some calculations, and you enter in the numbers and number of sprinkler heads and how big the tank is and all that, and that was possibly the seed of the risk calc idea when he and other folks started working in insurance and reinsurance. I guess at Sarima, and went from there. So it just snowballs from there. Automating AIR and RMS modeling. How can we make this more efficient? because we don't have enough UAs or underwriters to get to the submissions, to get to the modeling. And, we all think we can make more money and grow the business. What do we do?
Yeah.
So, well, let's implement the APIs and get some of this stuff automated. So you kind of go one step at a time, I think, and, try some ideas and see what happens. And I think, Mark, you've seen that.
Yeah.
Kind of starting fresh.
Right.
You get a request in, and then as it turns out, a lot of times that may not be the actual request you find out.
Yeah.
After
you start building a report or something, and then it kind of takes a little bit of a pivot into what you finally need it to be. And I don't know, you do a lot of versions. So I'm like, here's version 1. And then I send it out and I think it's good. I'm like, oh, this is probably perfect. Good old John Horton comes back. He's like, well, I got a wish list item. He might send me 3 things. He's like, I kind of need to see it like this. I kind of want to chart like this. But I love that because, we keep on enhancing the report. And, innovation fits in with that just to take something for what it is and make it better.
Brian told me one time, because we have queries saved out and we save them using the name, and that's kind of how you identify it, and you can search based on the name in Access. Anyway, a tool that we use a lot of, which is kind of antiquated at this point. But he told me one time, he's like, well, I don't call anything final because it's nothing's ever done. You're probably going to have to come back and change it. And I remember him saying that, because I said, my query name is something final. And he was like, I think he laughed. He's kind of like, yeah, I never use that. You probably don't want to do that. It's going to change.
That's funny.
And I've learned that that's probably true.
Coming from the underwriting side, moving to the business analytics side, like what would you say was the hardest thing for you to implement innovation or to be innovative or to kind of like get your brain working to think, okay, how am I going to adjust from one end of the business to this new side that's going to help work for the company, for the better of the company?
How did you find that new gear? That gear you
Honestly,
never
I feel like in the UA position, I wanted more math. I wanted more, and I felt almost restricted to come up with innovative solutions in a sense, in my personal experience. And then coming to this side, I got Microsoft Access and permissions to the databases and all the data behind the scenes, and I'm just love numbers, love Excel, love all that. So I actually feel like this just opened the door to become more innovative and taking the knowledge that I have on the UA side, even though I didn't learn everything about how to underwrite a whole account start to finish.
Yeah.
I learned a lot about the business and just name storm deductibles and a lot of terms and stuff that I just think make the reporting has just come more natural because I actually do have a little background on the UA side.
Well, and what's really interesting, and I don't think everybody knows this yet, but we're really just getting started from a reporting and data standpoint.
Wow.
And even though we have 20 years of data and we've had reports and we can, anything that we need to figure out or find, we can do that using tools that are probably getting outdated a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, we did not have 40 people in IT for the last 15, 20 years.
Wow.
When I started, there were 3.
Oh.
5, 6 years ago, we only had 15.
Who were the first 3, or from when you?
It was Steve Lanier,
Oh, yeah.
and Dan Peed actually kind of chuckled when he hired the first IT person. So, I don't know if we really need anybody, but Steve Lanier had underwriting experience, had been Dan's boss at one point, and Steve was not an IT person. He was been an underwriter, reinsurance underwriter, and broker. But he was a technical person, but Dan knew that he could help solve problems. And so Steve kind of knew a little bit and worked, I think, with Brian and Tim Singletary, who's since retired, and kind of started working on some things. And they hired Mason Rudloff maybe a year after Steve Lanier started. And Mason did a lot of work on Risk Track, as you guys know it today, and converted it from its sort of original form. It had been improved by Brian a lot. But Mason really turned it into the app that you see today with some help. But he sort of drove a lot of that, and you use the tools that he knew how to use to build what we have today, which is now getting rewritten. Yeah, funny enough. So Steve, Mason, and I were the first 3 folks, and we grew a little bit quickly. But like I said, we only had I think 12 or 15 people 5 or 6 years ago.
I did want to ask another question though in regards to carrier relationships, like with the reports you guys do. How innovative does it have to get to where they're getting the same kind of work that you guys are giving us, like internally at least?
It's not as complex as you might think, I guess. but it's not beyond what we do internally too far. But if you think about it, the premium has to be 100% correct, right? So we report everything that goes into AIM. So, this always surprises people. I say everything that you type into AIM or pick in a drop down pretty much goes to the carriers. They're going to see it.
Yeah.
And so the error checks that you see and all that, that's there for a reason, right? And AMI it's real money, so it's got to be right.
Yep.
And on the exposure side, we give them just about everything that's in risk track. I guess from a policy data standpoint, your limits and your attachment and all that's in the allocations, for each contractor carrier. Really, that goes over, it gets reformatted, and it might be in a spreadsheet, it might be in an XML file, it might be in an RMS or AIR database or table. But it almost all goes, to the carriers. And the funny thing there is that some of them model our book, or really, they book it, they book the premium quickly, right? Because they have to reconcile what they're getting paid with what we've booked and what they've booked. But so they're very quick to book the premium. But some people will model our portfolio that we give them every month. Some people are 6 months behind. Some people do it quarterly. Some people do it annually. So they're trusting our results. So when you see us or hear us, harassing folks about error checks and in a month or any of that type of stuff, it's really because we want to have the right data so we can manage the portfolio internally, right? Yeah. We have to do that, but we also don't want to send a bunch of messy garbage data to the carriers.
Has to be perfect.
And right, and it's never perfect, but they're
as close to perfect as we can get it.
Yeah.
The idea is there used to be the Lexus slogan, "In pursuit of perfection."
Oh,
so you're never going to be perfect, but you learn from your mistakes and you try and you keep trying, and you don't ever stop, and you don't ever stop innovating. You don't ever stop making progress. And of course, there's always a problem to solve, like I said. So that kind of just forces you to be creative and stay on top of things. But that's really kind of what we've tried to do, So, every error check, every data validation, the way that the tool works, I know sometimes you go, why does this work like this? But it's either it just happened to be that way just because of the way the Microsoft tool worked or something, or it was done very purposely. Yeah. Purposefully. So you never know, but usually it was done on purpose, for a good reason. Yeah. Trying to solve a problem. But the carriers, they really do get just about everything that everybody enters, and that's pretty interesting, actually, if you think about it, right?
Definitely.
And then they come in and they do audits. They do modeling audits. They do accounting audits. They do underwriting audits. So they look at our data and our workflow and our process, essentially kind of looking at our people almost, you could say, from those different perspectives. Yeah. And they do that.
They probably know my name.
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that.
We got a list of 23 accounts here with your name on them that are just awful.
And
there's a lot of reverse and reallocations. Okay.
Yeah, and we get questions about that actually. They say, man, what are all these reversals and we look, and it's we do a lot of endorsements. Occasionally there's typos or whatever, but it's usually endorsement activity, changing the inception, expiration dates, extensions. All kinds of things, changing the name insured, whatever it might be, the schedule was, you guys know there's, 15, 20 endorsements during the course of a policy sometimes, depending on the kind of the type of product you work on.
And they're not all straightforward, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my team does handle questions from the carriers about all that.
Yeah.
Leah Bellin handles the audit. She also works on John's team.
Oh, cool.
And so she's the carrier relationship manager. So she gets a lot of the kind of audit related questions. And her and I kind of work as a team, when there's questions about a policy or a data. And I will go to Laura Clark, who's kind of our accounts payable manager. I don't know what her actual title is at this point. Sorry, Laura. But she handles getting the carriers paid every month.
Yep.
And
she's on it too.
She's on it, and she's dealt with AIM and the way that the AmRisc works for a long time. So.
Also, someone that knows my name.
Yep, it happens.
I'm degrading myself here. Yeah. I should just stop talking.
So it's a team effort to get it all, but everybody has a lot of experience at this point.
Yeah.
And but it takes a lot of work. And like I said at the beginning, I think we're sending reports right now to 23 carriers. Might be 24 soon. A couple of those is 23 are runoff, but so it might stay right around 23. And just getting the reports out really is almost doing a quick review after some of the more in-depth reviews. Yeah. Just getting those out the door, like 2-day job. Just doing that. The carrier side is very interesting, and because it's modeling, it's accounting, there's a little bit of everything there.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, almost everything we do, they see it, and so that I think that says, when they give us more capacity, or as they want to grow their business with us, it's because we're doing things right.
Yeah.
And it's hundreds of millions of dollars they have on the line with us. And so we try to do right by them, whether it's managing the book or just sending in the data and making sure it's right and on time. So that's a lot of what my job comes down to.
And that's innovation for sure. I think you guys are kind of the face of it. So
we're just getting started. We got some more work to do, but I think over the next few years, I think everybody at AmRisc will see some changes. Whether it's things that L&D is coming up with, or our reporting, risk track is in the middle of being rewritten. I know not everybody's saying that, but there are people on the management side and everybody that's really involved in that, and trying to reimagine kind of what the workflow and the day to day for about 200 people looks like. I've told people, if we can grow to $4 billion, but not have to hire a whole another 200 people. Or whatever we have at AmRisc now, it's probably over 200. Then that's great. That would be the result of innovation, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's nothing to do with my team really. I mean, a lot of that is IT driven, but that would be great. There's a lot of things that have to happen to double the business. But
I know. Speaking of Christian and myself, we're very excited to see what the future holds as far as innovation goes, and where Risk Track and where AmRisc is going to be in the next 5 or so years. And thank you guys for coming out.
For sure. Thanks for having us.
You're welcome. Appreciate it, guys.
As always, thank you everybody for listening. If there are any questions you want to ask, please email us at podcast@amrisc.com. Also, go check out the FOMO forum on the AmRisc RELII website. Thank you.